inviting me and thanks for having me. Yeah, I write a lot and I'm really slow. This book, Artemis Rising, took me 10 years, and this last one that just came out earlier this month was 3 years, so I'm getting better. Chugging along, you know. But yeah, I'll be talking about Artemis Rising at this point, and this was kind of a labor of love for a long time. And it was a very complicated book because there are 3 storylines sort of going along all the way through, and 2 of them are actually myths. And I kind of, when I started the project, I ran across a Greek myth, Alpheus and Arethusa, one day on the internet, and I was like, that's pretty cool, I like it. And then randomly I came across another one, Tristan and Isolde. Are any of you familiar with that one? So I was surprised at how similar those 2 stories were, even though they were from different cultures, different time periods. I thought, wouldn't that be weird if you like squish those together into like a totally different story and see what happens? And so that's how this thing came about. So I'll just kind of give you a little heads up about the storyline and then give you an excerpt. So the question is, can we change our stars? I'll be reading, of course, from this book, and it explores that question through this lens of mythology. This story brings together 2 seemingly different storylines, or mythologies really, to ask this old question, and it's interesting how critical it is to our success and happiness. Because a lot of times we let others or ourselves put labels on us, you know, whatever it happens to be, ugly, slow thinking, unpopular. And the question is do we really have to let those labels stick? So in this story, the main character is Eva Marais, and it's in 1893 in the Portuguese Azores Islands. Are any of you familiar with the Azores? They're about 800 miles off the coast of Portugal. They're 9 islands, and I used to live on Terceira Island, which is about 8.5 by 11 miles wide, very, very small, but very beautiful. My main character has just taken on a new name, a pagan name, Arethusa, and it's been passed down through generations in her family. And each woman in the family is cursed by this tragic fate of this nymph, of Arethusa. And so our Arethusa, the one in this story, is actually, she figures out that the love of her life is not part of her new destiny. And so in this first excerpt, I wanted to kind of show you more about the Azorean culture. They're very big in the bullfights, street bullfights and arena bullfights, and I actually attended an arena bullfight when I lived there, and it was amazing. So in this scene, the boy that she loves, Tristan, is one of the lead forcados, and just to give you a quick rundown of what they are, you know, you've got the standard matadors with the cape, right? And they also have ones that are on horses, but then there's this whole team of 8 guys who basically face down the bull in the arena, and they try and tackle this thing to the ground with their hands. It's insane, and a lot of times they don't make it out alive. Basically, if with Tristan, if he wins, if his group wins, he's going to actually end up marrying a girl that he does not love. If they lose, they could either die or get severely injured, but he will actually end up having a chance with Arethusa, and he secretly loves her too. So that kind of kicks off where we are. Arethusa leaned forward. 8 men stood behind the arena wall. The music died away, and the trumpet heralded the entrance of the forcados. At the same instant, the 8 men vaulted over the wall and lined up inside the ring opposite the bull. The beast stood eyeing them, his breath heavy with exertion. She spotted Tristan at the front of the line of men. He stood rigidly, his feet planted firm. The only movement was the shifting of the green cap in his hands. He gazed up into the stands, and it seemed to Arethusa that he looked right at her. She stood, feeling embarrassed, knowing he would see her. The green cap went still. He bowed low to her. He put the cap on and marched in the direction of the bull, his body made graceful by the gait of his long stride. Arethusa couldn't sit. She watched Tristan's slow, measured paces down the center of the arena, the line of forcados following. Does he march to his death? The bull stared down their approach, daring the forcados to try him. Tristan did not falter, but moved ever forward. The bull snorted and stomped his hoof in the dust. Tristan led the men closer. The bull charged. Tristan and the forcados rushed forward, but at the last moment, Tristan stepped too far to the left. His body slammed against the bull's head, one of the horns goring into his stomach. The arena fell silent. Then Tristan cried out. Arethusa clutched her throat as everyone in the crowd stood. No, I whispered. She heard Isabel scream as the crowd erupted into a cacophony of noise. The shouts of the other forcados struggling with the bull drowned out Tristan's agonies as he clutched the bull's horns. One of them took hold of the beast's tail, distracting him long enough for two of the other forcados to lift Tristan off the bull's head. The crowd erupted into cries and shouts as one of the men carried Tristan off the field. Pai touched her arm. He failed for you, Arethusa, but I didn't ask him to do this. For a moment, she stood up at him, feeling emotions she could not name. Then he let her go. She pushed past the people in her row, a wealthy family with 5 children, an old man with a pipe, 2 businessmen, all staring down at the bull, all motionless with shock. She fled down the step toward the arena entrance, seeking Tristan, searching everywhere. When she found him, he was surrounded by the other forcados. A doctor knelt over him, pressing his red sash onto his stomach to staunch the blood that poured from his wound. Tristan's teeth were bared and his eyes were squeezed shut. His chest heaved as though he could not catch a breath. She collapsed in the dirt beside him and put her fingers to his stained cheeks. He opened his brilliant eyes and forced a smile. I chose you, Arethusa, he said simply. She touched his temple, sorrow and joy at war, and the tears streaming down her cheeks. And so that was one of the kind of middle scenes of the book, really. The second excerpt I want to share basically pits all 3 of the main characters in a big fight on the beach on Terceira Island, sort of at the base of like 100-foot cliffs. It's actually right below my backyard when I lived there. Basically, the other main character that you haven't met yet is Diago. He's the bad guy. He's really bad. He has just attempted to take Arethusa by force, and Tristan, in this scene, confronts Diago and is attempting to save her life. So they've just actually climbed up the 100-foot cliff, so they're all a bit tired at this point. That looks good. Diago's rage was complete. He turned on Tristan with her fury, pushing him to the ground. She ran forward as they struggled at the cliff edge, fighting for the knife. She tried to pull Diago off Tristan, but it only made his attacks more violent. He pinned Tristan beneath him, inching the knife toward his throat. Tristan braced himself as he held back Diago's wrist with his weak arm, but Diago's strength began to overwhelm him. Recognizing a chance to distract Diago, she kicked his injured leg. The diversion worked. He faltered, which gave Tristan enough leeway to knock the knife out of Diago's hand. They rolled, and Tristan was pinned beneath him. Diago dashed Tristan's head against the hard ground again and again. He cried out, but Diago was unrelenting. She grabbed his arm to pull him off Tristan, but his grip was a vice. He laughed as he shoved her to the ground. At last, Tristan moaned and lay limp. Diago stood up, breathing heavily. She couldn't see Tristan's eyes clearly in the dusk air, but she knew he was struggling for consciousness. His strong hands sprawled out close by, motionless but beautiful in the pale light. Arethusa's body told her to flee, but she knelt at Tristan's side.